Math, Unit 8, 10, and 12. Today what we're going to talk about is fitting takeoffs. I'm going to write it down here. Fitting takeoffs. Your book has some examples in Units 8, 10, and 12 that you're totally welcome to look at. I'm just going to record a video and kind of show you with voice and with writing what it looks like step by step. So the first thing that's going to be super important to you is we have some tables in the very back of the book, and today you're going to use very heavily Data Table 5, and that is on page 264. If I were you, I would maybe fold that page or put a bookmark there because you're going to be flipping there a lot. And you're also going to be using Data Table 6, which is on page 265. Now, what's happening is if you look at this table, it says we're talking about elbows, meaning fittings for 90 degrees and 45 degrees. We're going to talk about threaded, copper, and PVC fittings for drainage. So what they've done is if we zoom in here, they're telling us what A, B, and G are representing in these photos. So the first image of the fitting that we see is 90 degree fitting. And they're telling us that A, right here, A is the distance from here to here. So A is the takeoff for a 90 degree fitting. Because if you were to insert a pipe into a 90 degree fitting, it's not going to go clear into this area that I just shaded red. It's going to stop at the center of the fitting. So once we know our center to center measurement, we're going to take off that A measurement to help us figure out how long our end to end of our pipe will actually be. Okay, let me erase that here. Oh, of course my eraser doesn't want to work. Alright, oh well. You also have the same measurement A. Hello, eraser. There we go. We also have another A that's seen on the picture, and I'm going to highlight it red. Again, it goes from center of the fitting to the end of the fitting. And so this measurement is the same as the other measurement we just found. And if I move in the table, here's A right here. This table tells you how much you have to take off for a certain pipe size. So for example, if my pipe was 3/8 of an inch, I would have to take off an inch for a 90 degree fitting. If my pipe size was 1/2 inch, I would have to take off 1 1/8 inches for my fitting takeoff. Okay, in the table, it's got 90 degrees and it's got 45 degree fittings for us. Okay. Now, we got to go back up to the picture and talk about something really quick. When you're doing your takeoff, which I have highlighted red, we have an issue. You have been taking off this amount right here, but because we have threaded pipe, we're actually going to thread into that, and we don't want to take that off. So after we do our takeoff, we're going to have to add back on that thread measurement. And those thread measurements are listed as B right here in the table. So in a minute, we're going to go through some practice problems and we'll talk about this. Okay. We're not only going to work with threaded today, we're going to be working with threaded copper and PVC. So in table or Data Table 5, if I zoom back out, you'll notice that it's got all of the different types. We've got threaded, we've got copper, we've got PVC. And we'll look at the different types, but I need you to be able to read this table. So let's think really fast. If I had a 2-inch pipe, I would go down to 2-inch pipe. Here is 2-inch pipe. And maybe let's draw a picture so we can kind of see what this looks like. So let's say I have a pipe. And let's say that this pipe is 32 inches. And we know that its diameter is 2 inches. So what's happening is this diameter measurement right there is 2 inches. So that's what that means. Your diameter is 2 inches. Now, what's happening is we are putting a fitting on both ends of our pipe. And it could be a 45, a 90, a 60, a 22.5, a 30. It just depends what the question's asking. But let's say, for example, that this fitting's 90 degree and this fitting is a 45. So I know that from the center of this fitting, the center of this fitting is 32 inches. That is our center to center measurement. Today we know, well, first of all, we know that our actual pipe is not going to be 32 inches because when I put the pipe in the fitting, it's not going to go all the way in. It's only going to go to the center. So we have some takeoffs to do. So what we're going to do, we know it's 2-inch pipe, and for a 90 degree fitting, so here is my column for 90 degrees, at 2 inch it tells me to take off 2 1/4 inches. So I have to take off 2 1/4 inches from a 90 degree fitting. And from the 40 degree fitting, I'm going to have to take off 1 11/16. Okay? So here's how that's going to look. I'm going to write this down here. We have 32 inches, and we have to take off 2 1/4, so subtract. And once we get that, we got to take off 1 11/16 for the other fitting. Now, we have to remember, though, we're going to thread our pipe into that fitting. And so it tells us right here that our threads are 1/2 inch. So we are going to have to add a 1/2 inch back on both fittings. So this right here is how we will calculate the end-to-end measurement. So just to kind of recap, this number is the center-to-center measurement of our pipe. We are taking off our takeoffs for each fitting, and we use data table 5. This was the takeoff for a 2-inch 90 degree fitting. This was the takeoff for a 2-inch 45 degree fitting. But essentially we have taken off too much because we're going to thread our pipe back in. So these are the measurements of the threading. Okay? Now once I've wrote down all of my work like that, I just plug into my construction calculator. If you don't have a construction calculator, you've got a lot of work to do because you're going to have to start subtracting and adding fractions. I would suggest you either download the app that's a construction calculator or a fraction calculator. I'm going to write that down. Fraction calculator would work. Otherwise, I can't spell calculator. Otherwise, this assignment's going to take you a long time to do all of this by hand. I really suggest construction calculator or type it in online and get the answer for the fractions. Okay, I'm going to erase this and I'm going to talk to you now about what if it wasn't threaded or copper? What if it wasn't threaded and it was copper or PVC? So, let's erase this. Let's say we have the same situation, but in this case it's 2-inch copper or 2-inch PVC. With copper and PVC, you don't have a thread in. The pipe literally just goes into the fitting. So we're not going to have to add back any threads. So copper and PVC are an easier calculation. We have 32 inches minus. Let's do PVC. So 2-inch, if I go over to PVC for a 90 degree fitting, my takeoff is supposed to be 3 16 of an inch. Minus on the other fitting, which is a 45, they tell us the takeoff is 1 3/4 inches. And that's it. This is all I have to calculate for PVC. There's no threads to add back in. From the center. Okay, this is data table 6. It's the exact same thing as data table 5. The only difference is instead of having 45 degree and 90 degree fittings, if you look here, you've got 60 degree fittings, 22.5, 11 1/4. So this is where you would get those takeoffs. Same thing for a threaded pipe. You do have to add back your threads. And you'll notice it's not always 1/2 inch. Majority of the time it is, but you got to double check because 2.5 pipe size, 3-inch pipe size, 4-inch pipe size, their takeoffs are a little bit bigger. I shouldn't say takeoffs. Their thread ends are a little bit bigger. And then again, here's your copper and here's your PVC. Okay, so let's do a practice problem. Solve for end-to-end length of pipe needed. A 3/4 inch threaded pipe. So I always draw a picture. We have this pipe, and they tell us that it is, I'm going to switch my pen here. It is 22 inches long. And remember, this is our center to center measurement. And this pipe is 3/4 inch. So when we refer to the data table, it's a 3/4 inch. And what that means is on the ends, the diameter, so all the way across, is 3/4 inch. Okay. It says one end has a 90-degree fitting. So we have a 90-degree fitting on one end, and the other end has a 45-degree fitting. So I'm going to just label here. Let's say that this end is a 90-degree fitting, and this end has a 45-degree fitting. Now you guys can't see the picture of the table because I'm recording, but in your book you should be able to see it. So I'm going to go to 3/4 inch, and I am going to see what is a 90-degree and what is a 45-degree takeoff. I'm looking right now, a 90-degree for 3/4, you should go look too to make sure you know how to read it, is 1 3/8 inch. And a 45-degree is a 1 inch takeoff. And we also need to figure out what is the thread in. What are we going to have to add back in for each fitting? And the table says 1/2 inch. So this is my table info right here that I'm going to use. So, to do some math here, from center to center, that means from center of this fitting to center of this fitting, we have 22 inch distance. But our pipe is not going to be 22 inches because it's not fully going into the fitting. So we're going to have to do some takeoffs. From the 90-degree, we are taking off 1 3/8 inches. From the 45-degree, we are taking off 1 inch. And then both of those fittings have threads, so we have to add back our 1/2 inch to each fitting. Now again, I am not going to sit here and do this by hand. That would take too long. So right now I have an app downloaded on my phone, and if you're curious, the app is called Fraction Calculator, and I'm typing in 22, subtract 1 3/8, subtract 1, plus 1/2 inch, plus 1/2 inch, equals, and it tells me right now that the answer is 20 5/8 inches. Okay, let's talk about how you're going to type this answer in Canvas so that you type it appropriately. If your answer is 20 5/8, here's how you would type it. You would type 20, and then you would type a dash, and then you would type 5/8, and then inch. This is how you would type it. Or you also could type it in feet. Well, let's convert 20 5/8 to feet. 20 inches is 1 foot, 8 and 5/8 inch. So either of these two ways of typing into Canvas will be correct. I don't care if you do inches or inches and feet. Okay, last question. We are going to do one dealing with 1 inch copper. Remember, copper and PVC are easier because they don't have any thread ends. Our pipe is 39 inches long. So here's a picture. Here's my pipe. 39 inches long. One end has a 90-degree fitting, so over here I have a 90-degree fitting. And the other end has a 60-degree fitting, so over here I have a 60-degree fitting. So remember, these measurements are going from center to center. What we're trying to find is end to end. How long does our pipe actually need to be? So our end-to-end measurement, we've got to first go into the table and look at our takeoffs. So we have a 1 inch pipe, and I want to know what is the takeoff for a 90-degree. Let's see, 1 inch pipe. I'm going clear over to copper. A 90-degree is a 3/4 inch takeoff. A 45-degree is a 5/16 inch takeoff. We don't have any threads. That is nice. So for our math, we have 39 inches. We are taking off 3/4 inches, and we are taking off 5/16 inches. Plug this in your calculator and you have the answer. So here I go into my fraction calculator or construction calculator. 39, subtract 3/4, subtract 5/16 equals, and I am getting 37 and 15/16 inch. Again, Canvas is picky on how you type things, so here's how you type it. 37 dash 15/16 inches. So you can type it in inches, or if I want to write it in feet, 37 inches is 3 feet, 1 and 15/16 inch. Again, either of those two ways are fine.